to the lakeside city of Kisumu. Commitments have been made to Kenya's capital, Nairobi.
Killer chief in the next 6 months atakuwa na tablet.
William Ruto to move forward and receive.
And nearly 4 years into the Kenya Kwanza administration, KTN embarks on a journey tracing the footprints of every project that the Kenya Kwanza administration has promised Kenyans since they took office. This promise tracker, a KTN special report, begins right here
at the Nithi Bridge in Tharaka Nithi County. This is the most promised project by President William Ruto. Did he deliver or not?
Hii Nithi itakoma kuua wananchi wa hapa Meru na Tharaka Nithi na sehemu hii.
Hii Nithi Bridge mimi nitatengeneza.
Kuna bridge hapo imesumbua sisi na nakumbushwa kila siku inaitwa Nithi Bridge. Hiyo Nithi Bridge contractor amefika ako kwa hapo. Nimekubaliana na DP hapa, sio this week, hiyo wiki ingine si ndio DP, the other week. Huyu mjamaa tuko tayari na contractor ana mobilize. Mimi nataka alete contractor the other week ya bridge ya Nithi.
My assurance to you is that we now have a solution for Nithi Bridge.
Maendeleo ni safari.
In the backyard of Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, I spent several hours gazing at the infamous Nithi Bridge. To call this bridge risky would be an understatement. Perched above a treacherous stretch, Nithi Bridge is a constant reminder of a tragedy waiting to happen. Yet, for almost 4 years, President William Ruto has campaigned and used it to woo the people of Meru and Tharaka Nithi.
Hii Nithi Bridge
For Nithi Bridge.
Nithi Bridge.
ya Nithi mimi nitatengeneza.
Today, the question remains, has the promise of a lasting solution crossed the notorious Nithi Bridge? President William Ruto's promises have turned out to be nothing more than smoke and mirrors. When KTN conducted a spot check, the reality on the ground told a different story. The same bridge that was constructed decades ago still stands. For years, this neglected structure has remained a silent witness to tragedy, claiming tens of lives. Several years down the line, concerned citizens are left wondering whether this was just optics.
Sina imani na hii serikali. Hata kama wamefanya tu vitu zenye hatuelewi, hatuna imani na hii serikali kabisa. Kwa sababu ni serikali ya kusema, lakini inasema tu bila matendo. Na si ati pesa ati haiko, pesa haiko. Sasa tunauliza, kwani wanangojea kampeni ifike ili wakuje sasa wapige na hii barabara kampeni? Sababu walisema kuna pesa.
Hata inaanza kupasuka hapo chini. Tutengenezewe hiyo haraka iwezekanavyo. Tuone kama watu wetu sio wa Tharaka Nithi, ni watu wa Kenya mzima ndio wanakufia hapo. Lakini ukiangalia wale wengi ni wale wanatoka Maua, Meru, pande hiyo.
Because President William Ruto and his deputy are on record stating different quotations mixing the entire nation.
We have 7 billion shillings ya kujenga Nithi Bridge.
Sasa tumeweka pesa ya serikali 1.7 billion ya kujenga hiyo barabara, ya kujenga hiyo barabara kiasi, lakini mainly the bridge.
Tuko na solution ya engineering na tuko na pesa ya kufanya hiyo kazi.
There is 2 solutions to that bridge. One will cost us 5 billion shillings, and they have designed how it's going to happen. The other one is going to cost us 50 billion shillings.
Hii Nithi Bridge mimi nitatengeneza. Inahitaji shilingi bilioni 7. Ni pesa nyingi.
Well, it's not just Nithi Bridge.
Tutawajengea soko ingine 9.
Across the country, one phrase has become synonymous with President William Ruto's pledge: in 6 months.
In 6 months' time, for the next 6 months, in the next 6 months,
And within 6 months,
in the next 6 months.
kuanzia mwezi wa 6.
The in 6 months phrase is actually not new to President William Ruto's political vocabularies. It predates his presidency. Long before he occupied the highest office in the land, then serving as deputy president under the Jubilee administration, Ruto stood before crowds and made a bold commitment regarding the construction of Kamarinyi Stadium.
In 6 months' time, the stadium in Kamarinyi in West Pokot which is historic, will be complete.
Years later, that pledge remains a reference point in conversations about political promises. It is a pattern that continues to draw scrutiny, especially whenever familiar timelines resurface in new projects. And Kenyans are now asking if 6 months is a deadline or merely a political catchphrase. Let's shift focus to Elgeyo Marakwet County. And for residents here, the Kamarinyi Stadium pledge became a symbol of waiting and delayed transformation. The stadium, referred as a cherished athletic hub in a region known for producing world-beating runners, remained untouched for years since that promise was made. And it is not just Kamarinyi. President William Ruto promised many others before he took office.
In 6 months' time, the stadium in Wote will be complete. In 3 months' time, the stadium in Chuka will be complete. In 3 months' time, the stadium in Moyale will be complete. In a couple of months, the stadium in Eldoret will be complete. In Nyeri, the president gave the title. There was a challenge of title. Now we have a title, and now the program has been rolled out. In Kiambu, in another 3-4 months, the stadium will be complete.
And now with the full weight of presidency behind him, it has not taken 3 months or 6 months, or a few months like he mentioned it. It has taken President William Ruto's administration 3 years, and still there is little to show. Kamarinyi is set to host Mashujaa Day on October 20th this year, but construction is yet to commence. And perhaps the government will have to look for alternative grounds to host the national celebration. Looking back on Labor Day, the celebrations in Vihiga County were inside the grounds of Chavakali High School, where classrooms gave way to tents and a school field had been transformed into a national stage. Yet, just a few heartbeats away, Kidundu Stadium, once promised, is yet to be completed. Its construction stalled and later went silent.
We are at the preliminary stages, preparing, securing the area, constructing the perimeter wall.
Then there is Wote Stadium in Makueni County, a project that was launched with optimism in 2017 by President William Ruto, then Deputy President. He promised it would be completed within 6 months.
In 6 months' time, the stadium in Wote will be complete.
Wote Stadium, that we had been promised by the government, it will be complete, let's say in 6 months. And this field has become an impediment on how we can grow our talents. We are having a lot of congestion because in this town we only have one field. That is a police ground hosting 10 senior teams and 4 junior teams and 4 lady teams.
Several years down the line, over 300 million Kenyan shillings have been spent on the project. But on the ground, there is little to match the scale of investment.
We would really like and we would really appreciate that this field is put into use first.
Adjacent to Wote Stadium, President William Ruto's pet project, the affordable housing, is slowly taking shape. Many question about priorities, or is it just optics? Then there is the Kiprugut Chumo Stadium in Kericho, formerly Kericho Green, that hosted the 2023 Mashujaa. In the lead up to the event, the stadium received a facelift. Its surfaces were polished and sections upgraded to meet the demands of a national ceremony. But the moment Kenyans departed, the moment appeared to fade with them.
We are going to redesign the stadium. We are going to remove the current terrace that you see and do new terraces and rework the field and the running track so that we provide 8 lanes in the standard they should be.
The shell of half-built arenas stand as monuments to broken pledges 2 years later. Notably, the stadium had previously received 37 million Kenyan shillings in 2020. Altogether, 437 million Kenyan shillings has been spent here with little to show.
Tulikuwa tumeweka tartan track hapo mbeleni. I think it was in 2020. Kwa ile renovation ilifanywa wakati ya Mashujaa, tartan track haiko. Na ukiangalia pia kiwanja bado haijafika ile standard inafaa.
Ukiona hii nyasi ni ile ya ng'ombe. Hapa mvua ikinyesha season ya mwezi wa 4 vizuri, hakuna game inachezwa hapa. Inakuwa kama ni shamba ya ng'ombe.
In Nyeri Tech Rirungu Stadium.
In Nyeri, the president gave the title. There was a challenge of title. Now we have a title, and now the program has been rolled out.
It is one of the projects that have been relaunched multiple times. In 2023, Ruto himself commissioned its construction, but little progress followed, and the contract was terminated after consuming over 250 million Kenyan shillings. By 2025, the project was handed to the Kenya Defence Forces with an estimated cost of 800 million Kenyan shillings. 3 years on, what was envisioned as the largest stadium in the Mount Kenya region, intended to serve Murang'a, Kirinyaga, Nyandarua, and Nyeri counties, remains unfinished. In total, the Kenya Kwanza administration has already spent close to 1 billion Kenyan shillings on this project.
Sasa nimeamurisha ya kwamba hii Ruringu sasa nimeambia watu wa jeshi wakuja wanisaidie kukamilisha hiyo Ruringu. And I am very confident that by the end of this year we will complete Ruringu.
The Kenya Kwanza administration brought to power on the promise of a transformative bottom-up agenda. Mama mboga, watu wa boda, small-scale farmers and the hustlers.
Pale kwa boda boda, pale kwa makanga, na mtu ya kiosk, na watu wa boda, wapate pesa ya kuinua biashara yao. Ndio tuanze hapa chini twende up. Bottom.
But nearly 4 years since the Kenya Kwanza government assumed power, Kenyans are still waiting for the government to honor its promises. I hope you remember this.
Simu utakuwa unapiga free of charge. Simu haitakuwa inakatika kwa sababu sasa tutakuwa tumedeploy internet.
So the question remains, have the biggest allies to this government fulfilled their dream of free internet and free calls?
Hiyo inakatika, hiyo ni story.
Ukipiga simu ukiwa mahali pakasi hapa inakatika, hakuna internet, hakuna mawasiliano kabisa, na tuko na huwa kila mara watu wanasema serikali ya mama mboga, na hakuna usaidizi ambao tumepata kama mama mboga.
Hapo ndio tuna challenge. Sasa hiyo wifi hatupati.
Tulilojiwa wifi na tukatumia one man. Hiyo one man ilitusaidia ku advertise kazi zetu, kuuza online, na ikafanya tu one month.
Wifi imefanya mimi nikipiga picha kwa biashara yangu na post, watu Kenya nzima wanaona biashara yangu, wanaona biashara yangu venye inafanya.
But it is not only Mama Mboga who are treated to grand promises of internet connectivity and free calls. At State House, Nairobi, a one-of-a-kind event was organized by the president, where chiefs from across Kenya gathered in their finest regalia for what was billed as a historic recognition of their role. And then came the moment designed to steal the headlines. President William Ruto, with his trademark 6 months promise, assured the chiefs that they will soon be armed with tablets, the digital gadgets meant to catapult them into the age of e-government.
Kila chief in the next 6 months atakuwa na tablet.
Several months down the line, KTN conducted a spot check back in their actual jurisdictions. Many chiefs still lack modern office spaces and are still operating from dilapidated colonial-era structures. And a few literally conduct business under the shade of trees, where the open air serves as both the boardroom and workplace. Here, electricity is not a utility but a luxury. Chiefs in these regions rely on handwritten registers, kerosene lamps, and a word of mouth to manage community affairs. So when the president talks about digitizing administration, the irony bites hard, because it is a vision of the future being sold to communities that are still waiting for the basics.
Vitu zote tunaomba serikali iharakishe kabisa, sababu chief wetu anatembea na miguu, ana pikipiki, ana hizo tablets hatuna. Kulingana na vile hali iko sahi, ni very pathetic sana. Inaonekana hata kwa mapicha sio mzuri.
Mr. President, I hope you remember the gas promise.
Leo mnanunua mtungi ya gas shilingi 2,000, shilingi 2,800. Tumesema sasa tutaweka pesa ya serikali kupunguza gharama ya mtungi ya gas. Ile ya kilo 6 mnanunua 2,500, 2,800, tutaishukisha chini mpaka shilingi 500 ama 300.
Jambo ambalo halijafanyika na halijaweza kutimia. Sasa hii mtungi ya gas kwingine ni 1000, kwingine 1100.
Hii vile tuna refill gas unapata tuna refill na 1300 ama 1350, na ukiangalia sana ni shida sana kwa watu wengine, kwa sababu yule mama mboga ambaye ako klasi ya chini kuweza kurefill hiyo gas inabidi amefanya kazi mingi sana ndio aweze kujaza hiyo mtungi.
Mr. President, what became of the free diapers promised to mothers? Or did the pledge get changed before the babies did?
I commit to provide mothers of newborn babies with diapers for their children for a minimum of 3 months paid for by the government of Kenya.
Lakini mpaka saa hii hakuna mwanamke ambaye anatoka maternity akiwa amepewa hizo diapers. Kwa hivyo hizo story zote zilikuwa stories za jaba ambazo saa hii sisi kama wananchi tunahimiza wale ambao wanaomba viti wasikuje kutuahidi vitu za maongo, wasituambie mambo ambayo hawanajua hawataweza kutimiza. Tunasikia tukiwa disappointed na hii serikali kwa sababu ilisema mama mboga atatoka chini akienda juu. Sasa tunaona ametoka juu anaenda chini.
The little ones are now settled in school, happily enjoying their meals through the school feeding program. And as they learn, President William Ruto pledged to enhance their menu.
Ninunue mashini ya kutengeneza chapo. Na nimekubali nitamnunulia mashini ya kutengeneza chapo. Hata wewe gavana, tafuta mahali ya kununua mashini ya kutengeneza chapo 1,000,000.
The grand unveiling of the so-called chapati making machine for the school feeding program. The imaginary was so absurd that Kenyans on social media went all in, mocking the promise as yet another fantasy invention. Memes flew, hashtags trended, and the machine became a symbol of political promises that sound impressive in speeches but collapse under the weight of reality. But perhaps no single example captures the frustration of launch and leave governance better than in Kiabonyoru, Nyamira County.
Hapa Kiabonyoru.
The president left Gusii residents puzzled after relaunching a stalled road whose construction he first launched when he was the deputy president in 2018. 8 years later, Ruto, now serving as president, returned to launch the same road, but this time around from the far end of the same road, and rebranded it Keumbu, Gachuba, Kiendege, Kemera Road. The road which had stalled after the contractor doing only less than 2 kilometers from Kemera town before being terminated.
Watu wa Nyamira.
Still in Gusii, while in Nyamira County, Ruto's push to establish a university college in Kiabonyoru has become a bewildering cycle of grand launches, the ceremonial groundbreakings, and the head of state personally presiding over multiple foundation stone events. Yet, the envisioned campus remains largely unbuilt, hovering in the space between announcement and reality. It all began on August 12, 2024, when President William Ruto issued a presidential directive establishing the new institution, setting the vision in motion.
Kwa sababu tumeamua hiyo university inakuja hapa, mko na ardhi ya kutosha. Sasa watu wa university ya Kisii mtaenda kupanga ile maneno imebaki, ndio tukamilishe hiyo mpango ya kuleta university hapo.
A year later, in August 2025, Ruto staged a state handover, turning paper plans into physical location. On October 2025, the project marked yet another milestone with a groundbreaking ceremony. Yet actual construction only limped into motion around January 2026. Then came April 13th, 2026, when Ruto returned to Kiabonyoru to lay yet another foundation stone while pledging 500 million Kenyan shillings and 300 million Kenyan shillings for hostels. It is not just Kiabonyoru in Nyamira County. The Kenya Kwanza administration has been unable to complete the Ronald Ngala Utalii College in Vipingo in Kilifi County, even after promising to have the first cohort admitted by April 2025. The government had pledged to complete phase 1 of the project, sitting on 56 acres that year, roll out the admission for the first cohort by January 2025, and start training by April. Construction of the project is expected to gobble up to 10 billion Kenyan shillings and 11 billion Kenyan shillings on completion. Initially, estimated at 4.9 billion Kenyan shillings. The project has faced long delays, with the first phase costing an additional 1.9 billion Kenyan shillings and still incomplete. During the 2022 campaign trail, Ruto made water security a cornerstone of his platform. He spoke of a future where drought will no longer dictate the fate of farmers or families. Ruto promised 100 mega dams and 1,000 smaller dams to end drought, provide irrigation, transform agriculture. Thwake Dam is one of the mega lies by this administration. President William Ruto first spoke about Thwake Dam. He painted it as a game changer, a project that will deliver water, power, and irrigation to millions, with its completion promised in just a few short years. During his subsequent visits, he assured locals that the dam will be ready soon, even tying its benefits to Konza metropolis and regional farming.
We are going to complete Thwake by February next year. I have given very firm instructions. We cannot build Thwake forever. It must come to an end. Mimi sasa nataka niwatangazia kwamba tumepata pesa bilioni 9 ya kukamilisha hiyo dam ya Thwake. By April, May next year, that dam will be complete na itasaidia watu wa Kitui, watu wa Makueni na watu wa Machakos.
Fast forward to today, and the reality is far less inspiring. The dam has stalled, deadlines have been missed one after another, and communities in Kitui, Machakos and Makueni are still waiting, still hoping for the water and jobs they were told were just around the corner. What was once sold as a flagship of progress now stands as a monument of broken timelines and political overpromising.
Everybody knows Makueni County is within the arid and semi-arid areas, and therefore we need this water to do our irrigations. What I've been seeing is the opulence by the members, by our leaders. They are flying everywhere with the choppers. They are walking around with the fuel gas in vehicles, spending a lot of money. There is a lot of wastage in spending at the expense of the development that we demand from the national government.
Tulikuwa na matumaini makubwa sana na hii damu yetu. Tulikuwa kwanza matarajio ya tupate chakula, tujitosheleze kichakula.
In Nakuru County, the construction of Itare Dam remains a promise. Little has been done to ensure the resumption of construction works. In May 2024, the government spokesperson revealed that reviving the dam project in Kurusoi North will cost the taxpayer an extra 5 billion Kenyan shillings. Initially, the dam whose construction was launched in 2016 was to cost 35 billion Kenyan shillings. However, the price tag has since ballooned, pushing the total estimated cost to 40 billion Kenyan shillings. In the Rift Valley, despite being President William Ruto's political bedrock, the region has a significant backlog of stalled projects, which the president himself initiated. The Ruto administration is yet to kick off construction of the 63 billion Kenyan shillings Arol and Kimorel dams, key water projects that were expected to turn Kerio Valley into an agricultural hub and create thousands of jobs. On March 14th, 2023, Ruto met his Italian counterpart Sergio Mattarella in Nairobi and discussed the resumption of the stalled projects.
We have agreed that the financing that was already made available is going to be restructured and the projects are going to start. We intend to clear the court issues in the next 1 month and be able to start the process of negotiating the restructuring of financing, and hopefully we should be able to go on with the construction of these dams in a matter of months.
Still in the Rift Valley, the construction of the Karenga airstrip in Belgut constituency has remained stalled since the Mashujaa Day celebrations in 2023.
Ameenda kwa njia ya kinyonga. Yaani chusi contractors walikuja field. Ilikuwa tunafikiri kazi yameanza. Lakini aliendelea kwa muda mfupi, hawa contractors walitoka.
Most of the time tunafika huko tunaona tu kama wanyama, ng'ombe, mapunda wanaenda kukula huko. So we want to excellence the president. This project itusaidie ikamilishwe kama sisi youths ndio tupate kazi.
For President William Ruto, the clock appears to have long run out on the promises once made with certainty and conviction.
For the next 6 months, in the next 6 months, and within 6 months, in the next 6 months.
What were presented as firm timelines have since dissolved in 2 years, while the silence of unfinished projects continue to grow louder. And so, Mr. President, the nation asks, was it ever about service or survival? Vera Mora, KTN.
Vera Mora with that special report at the Gallery of Lies. So let's now take a look at what Kenyans had to say on social media in regards to that expose. George Banks says, calling receipts extortion doesn't delete the archive. Mr. President, KTN didn't invent the headlines. They just checked the math on your transformative track record. If the facts are wrong, counter them. Crying victim when your own record talks back is a bad look. Let's take a look at the other responses. And Yoko, that is Kibet Bull, says they just stated facts. They just highlighted what you promised and failed to deliver. Nani alituambia gas itarudi mpaka 500. Let's take a look at another one. The Kenyan Politics, of course, says, in case you missed it, that is the Gallery of Ruto's Lies. And then you have Mudomi Martin saying he handwriting ni yake sio ya Itumbi in 6 months. Of course, highlighting some of those promises. And the government critic says the standard has pinched where it hurts the most. We are glad the standard is keeping its standard high, and you will do nothing. That is the government critic. And then Shackles Indelible says, tell us more about this, Your Excellency, more about the promises that he made. And then again, Kibet Bull says they just stated facts. They just highlighted what you said. And then there's that Shackles saying, tell us more. And of course, Evans Wamemba saying, kwani hapa deal haikuivana ama kuna mtu aliruka mwingine. Now, of course, politics and journalism is totally different. The role of the media is to hold the government accountable. Border to sonic dispersal weapons.